depending on what man is running the house, the masculinity look different. Because if man A running his household and he typically run it, this typical or traditional association, masculinity, this is his masculinity. If he runs his household by beating his woman, his version of masculinity involve beating women. If dude B run his household by uplifting his woman, that's how his masculinity looks. So my argument is, between the different races, masculinity looks different. I say it's no such thing as black toxic masculinity. If you talk about what's toxic when men run a civilization, the only toxicity I seen in my studies come from European rule. Under European patriarchy, then you get toxic masculinity. I'm gonna leave it up to y'all, because I don't want to make content that don't resonate with what people interested in. Check this out. If this video get a good amount of views, if this video gets some good engagement with likes or whatever, if y'all just show interest in this video, I'm gonna go deeper, because I'm not going too deep. I'm not going location by location across the earth. I'm not going example by example, because I don't want it to take too long, and this might be boring for some people. So this video, we just gonna brush over it. If you enjoy this video and it shows, it reflects in the engagement and stuff, we're gonna keep getting deeper into it. Look, y'all, I know the camera's super close, like way closer than usual, but when I be zooming it back, at least for me sitting right here, it like start to lose focus. Like I'm looking at it right now, it look focused. It still look like it's trying to lose focus here and there. When I had zoomed it out, it was really losing focus. So forgive me for y'all being all up in my personal space and I'm being all in y'all personal space. Y'all probably can smell my breath through the camera, but it's just because it keep losing focus. So bear with me. But look, it's great though, because it make it look like a real intimate, serious conversation. Like us being this close. Like I can feel you, I can touch you, you can touch me. Hold on. Me put my hand there close, I mess up the focus, did it? Nah, it's cool. All right, but look. Today, I got the mic close to y'all. Probably heard all the sound effects and me swallowing my spit. But look. In this episode, we're going to get into the differences between masculinity from different races. From race to race, masculinity look different. The reason I brought this up was on the podcast, I hear sisters say like, oh, it's toxic masculinity when men do this. It's toxic, toxic masculinity. They be like, yeah, this toxic masculinity, that's toxic masculinity. Cool. I said previously, I'm gonna put the video little screenshot right here. I said previously in that video that there's no such thing as toxic masculinity, because we gotta define what masculinity is. If God made man and God made woman, that means God made man to act a certain way, God made woman to act a certain way. The way that God made these two to act is masculinity and femininity. Now, it can't be toxic if it come from God. If God made manhood and womanhood, it can't be toxic. That's an oxymoron, saying God is divine, but also God that made this toxic thing. So that's my thought process on it. Masculinity can't be toxic. The only toxicity you get is when you deviate from masculinity and when you deviate from femininity. But if you just insist on using the term toxic masculinity, I agree with you if you define it, because now we got to define what is masculinity. I had looked it up. I'm going off memory. I can pop it up on the screen if I'm missing any word or whatever, so y'all get the real raw definition. But the definition of masculinity is traditional stuff that's associated with men. Now, the problem with this definition is if right now today, fingernail polish, dresses, getting the door open for me, if all these type of things right now become the norm for men, that will be traditionally associated with men, the definition of masculinity. So 100 years from now, the masculine thing to do would be wear fingernail polish, would be wear dresses and everything else I just said. If we just going off that definition, what's typically associated with men. So since that's not a good enough definition, as we can clearly see, because if the wrong stuff start being associated with men, that'll become the masculine thing. That can't be a good enough definition. So what is the definition we gonna go off of? What is masculine? We can use the biblical principles that everybody know by heart: protect, nurture, provide. What else they say in the Bible? Protect, provide. It's some I'm missing. What do people always say? Protect. Really, they just say protect, provide. But I'm gonna throw this verse from the Quran up. It say men are the maintainers of women. This is what we can use in a nutshell, because to maintain something, you have to have knowledge on something. So to be a man, you have to be knowledgeable. We already said provide, protect. So to provide, you still have to have knowledge. You have to have compassion and love for the things to provide for, because you're not going to provide for something you don't love. So to protect, once again, knowledge, because to protect something, you got to know how to protect it. If you don't have knowledge, you might try to protect it and end up harming it. So in a nutshell, we know he got to be smart. Every single thing we list contains a level of knowledge. So to be a man, you got to be smart, you got to protect, you got to provide, you got to nurture, you got to maintain. We'll take maintain out because that's one and the same with nurture. You see what I'm saying? So we won't have a super long list for no reason. Let's just try to condense it. All right, cool. Then to add on to that even more, if we look at a husband, the word husband, because we know if God made us to have a wife, we have to be a husband. Cool. The definition of husband, we can look into it and look at husbandman, the word husbandman. So a husbandman is like a farmer, a person that cultivate the land. By cultivating the land, you preparing the land. Preparing it for what? Preparing it to do the outcome it's made to do. So you got to have knowledge to know what to do with the land, how to make it better. If you got some dry, unfertile land, how do you make it fertile? This is what a husbandman does. He takes it from one condition and betters it. So if that was what a husband's supposed to be, somebody that betters something, somebody that grows something and nurtures something. Long story short, a man, masculinity, a husband, all this stuff, this, how can I put it? Do I want to say adjectives? For lack of a better word, we can say adjectives or descriptions of how God made man to be. We can look at man and just say, where you find man, you should find prosperity, growth, positivity. So if that's what we can, in a nutshell, say masculinity is, then anything deviating from that will be toxic. Okay, cool. So if men supposed to bring peace and harmony, anything other than peace and harmony will be considered toxic, will be considered unmasculine. Okay, cool. So I feel like that's a better definition than just saying stuff typically associated with men. Nah, let's dig a little deeper into it. Let's define it as a man is somebody who's supposed to bring peace, order, and harmony. All right. Now, going off that, we can have a basis to build our topic off of. So remember, I said, really, I don't even want to say it's a such thing as toxic masculinity. Because like I said, if we just define masculinity as something positive, you can't necessarily say this is toxic and positive. That's what it sounds like when you say toxic masculinity. But I do get what people saying, because I hear a lot of sisters say it. Let's say if a man is being oppressive, let's say if a man is being abusive, over violent, etc., then she'll say this is toxic masculinity. I think it's not masculinity at all. I think it's cowardice. So I think she shouldn't even use that word to describe it. But I get what she's saying. So if going back to the Google definition, if masculinity is something typically associated or traditionally associated with men, depending on what man is running the house, the masculinity look different. Because if man A running his household and he typically run it, this typical or traditional association, masculinity, this is his masculinity. If he runs his household by beating his woman, his version of masculinity involve beating women. If dude B run his household by uplifting his woman, that's how his masculinity looks. So my argument is, between the different races, masculinity looks different. So masculinity is not a one size fit all thing, like men are this or masculinity is this way. It depends on what man is in control. So if we're going to look at history, this is how we finna define masculinity. I say is no such thing as black toxic masculinity. If you talk about what's toxic when men run a civilization, the only toxicity I seen in my studies come from European rule. Under European patriarchy, then you get toxic masculinity when black men are in control of their own civilizations and societies. You see no toxic masculinity. But that might sound like, oh, he just saying that because he black. Cool, let's get into it. Make sure we're on the same page before we get into it. Let's have clear-cut aims and purposes. If white men run their society like this and black men run their society in a completely different way, these are two different ways or two different traditions that men run their civilization by. So going back to the definition, I want to beat it into y'all head. Masculinity was traditionally associated with men. If these men act completely different, they have things that's traditionally different that's associated with them. These men have differences in their tradition that's associated with them. So the masculinity is not the same. So if we can point out differences in how each man run a patriarchy, it's two different forms of masculinity. Cool. So let's look at how these two different societies, when ran by men, treat other men, treat other women, treat children, and the outcome of the society. And then we'll be able to prove if it's a difference in masculinity. So we're not finna go over every single region in the world where when black people ruled, then looking at it when white people got control. And we're not finna keep comparing every single region of the world, every single aspect. We just gonna give you some food for thought and you can do the rest of the research on your own. But I will put up examples if y'all need to, because y'all probably like, why would I believe him? I got plenty of books I done read that gave me this insight, but let's get into it. You might say, whatever you finna say that the other races did, black men did it too. Yes, I'm not denying it, but I'm denying when did we do it. Because right now in America, if we as black men beat our women, lie to our women, cheat on our women, rob our brothers, kill our brothers, all these forms of what you might consider toxic masculinity, if we are doing this to one another, are we black? You look at my skin and say, I'm black. So yeah, if I beat my woman, yeah, that's toxic masculinity. And does that fall on the black man? That's the question. Does that action fall on the black man? I'm not removing all responsibility and accountability off the black man. Do not think I'm doing that because I'm black. So if I do that, you know, just like I know, if you remove accountability from somebody, it's hard for them to grow into the best person they able to be because they just gonna keep putting the blame on everybody else. So I'm not doing it. We do need to take self-accountability. But for the purpose of this conversation, we gonna try to name whose fault is it for the society being ran this way. If I got a household and I got a wife and kids, and my kids act a certain way, and even if my wife act a certain way, you will be justified in looking at me as the man of the house and say, something wrong with you. If my kids come to your house or go to school or whatever and they act a plump fool, you are well justified by looking at me as the man of the house, the person who gives the orders or supposed to give the orders and the rules and reinforce them. You will look at me crazy if my kid was out here doing everything. Cool. Why? Because the leader is responsible for the actions of the subordinates. If I'm a trainer and I train a player and I've been training this player for a very long time, and this player get in the game and this player performs well, you will say, ooh, I'm a dang good trainer. I almost said DAM, but DAMN. I'm saying it like I be texting, but you will say I'm a dang good trainer. Okay. If that player performs poorly, you will say that player needs to find a new trainer, because it's the trainer's fault. The person who in charge is responsible for how the subordinate act or the actions that person do when the situation is given for them to pull out the knowledge that they've been told by the leader or by the teacher, whatever. All right, cool. So if us as black men been oppressed for the last 400 plus years by our enemy, we got all our knowledge from them, the systems incorporated in the society come from them, everything else. If we act a certain way, and these people are our leaders and teachers, who does that fall on? Them. All right, just making a simple example. Cool. So if the black man in America act so savage-like, my take on it is that's not a reflection on us, on our form of masculinity. That's a reflection of the white man's form of masculinity, because this is his house. America is his house. So subordinates in his house is a reflection of his masculinity. So in these examples, I won't use America to justify us. I will use America to justify them. And I will use other places where we had control to justify us, and then we'll get the compare and contrast. Let's start with the sisters. How do we treat women? How do black masculinity treat women? How do white masculinity treat women? AKA, how do women get treated when white men are in control of the society? How do women get treated when black men are in control of the society? Now, for white men, let's look at our current condition in America. Do women feel oppressed? Do not even feel, because feelings can be misconstrued. Are women oppressed? Yes. Is the black women specifically the most oppressed out of all women? Yes. Okay, so under white rule, we got oppression for women. Let's dig deeper into this oppression of women before we move on to any other category that negatively impacts women. Women weren't able to vote. Women weren't able to work. Women's opinion is not considered when building a civilization. Now, if you build a civilization without women, but you gotta depend on women to bring the next generation into existence, to oppress the woman is to lower the value of the society. To exalt and uplift the woman is to raise the value of the society, because if through the woman the next generation has to come, if you treat her less than human, then you treat the generations to come less than human. So think about how stupid this is, but we raised in a society that don't teach the divine aspect and divine value of femininity and why we should uplift the woman so highly. We just taught, if anything, that they just our counterpart, that God just made them for us to use and abuse, and so be it. It's a man's world. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of mindset you get in America. And if you want to argue with me that that's not the mindset we got, you just look at the society and tell me, are women valued as the divine women that God made them and created them to be? No. So with that being said, we can move on to the history part of it. Now, it's a place called, I'm not even going to try to say the name because I mess it up. It's a funky name, but I'm going to put the name on the screen. And this place is a museum that's filled with torture devices used over the centuries or whatever in Europe. Cool. What does these torture devices consist of? many devices used to torture women. I don't even want to get into the specifics because I was for name it, but it just make my skin crawl. But it's plenty of devices used to just torture women for whatever reason I deem justified. If I feel like I'm finna go out of town, and this a real device, this not just me making some up. If I'm finna go out of town or whatever, and I feel like my wife gonna cheat, they had a device where it's painful and you stick it up her private area, and it's like I got a key to it, and you can't change it. You can't take the key off or whatever until I come back. Now, you can imagine if it's like, think of it like a diaper, basically, being locked on you. If you still gotta poop, you still gotta pee, all this, that, and the third, you can imagine how not only painful, but unsanitary these type of torture devices was. But who cares? Because they tortured their women. You think they cared about how sanitary their woman was being? But I don't even want to keep going down that hole. But I'm just gonna leave it at this. Under white rule, women get oppressed. Simple as that. Then on the flip side, if we look at African civilization, we can see like a type of mothered centeredness. And it's not just from me to my mother. It's from women in general. Even if it's a young sister that is not a mother, she will be a mother eventually. So we got this divine respect for the feminine. But on the flip side, we don't see that in European-centered patriarchies. We incorporated the feminine in our day-to-day lives by our day-to-day actions, how we treat our women, and how we build the civilization. It's not just, what do I think as a man, if what the woman think? Nah, we come to these decisions together and we build as one. You will look at the statues of ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet civilizations. You will see the king and you will see the queen side by side. It's not like, imagine the equivalent today with presidents. You will see the president is like exalted on a high level. The first woman is just somebody in the background. That's how we treat it. But if we look at our civilizations, we see the king, we see the queen. And the queen is not just a queen just because she the wife of the king. Just because the king just picked somebody, bam, she a queen now. Nah, we can see in different stories and different legends in ancient Kemet the power of the queen, the power of women in general. But we don't get that same respect in our present world now. All right, cool. Next topic. Like we said earlier, sisters will say about lying, being abusive, X, Y, and Z. These are traits of toxic masculinity. I would agree with them. Now, what is the root of that? Let's look at our civilization and see, do it come from us? Or was that a new thing that was implemented in our head when we took on a different teacher, our oppressor? Let's see. All right, y'all, let's read it straight from here. The colonial educational officer C.T. Benz lived among the Zulu for 59 years, after which he wrote the book, The Warrior People. He was a racist, and a white supremacist, yet he intensely admired the Zulus, saying throughout his life, the Zulu of the olden times were subjected to a remarkable system of unremitting discipline, but it was a discipline that made him honest, brave, and wise, respectful toward king and neighbor. He was a cunning and daring opponent, a keen logician. I know the root word is logic. We could just gonna say he was super smart and consummate diplomatist, not a mongrel, but a man of repute, not a debased savage, but an intelligent being. He was, in short, a man of right with undeniably just and overwhelmingly strong claim to be dealt with as such, even by his conquerors and every other white man living in Africa. All right, so let's go back and just hit the main points. The first part that I got underlined and read is system. So remember, we said, depending on how the house is ran, you can judge the man of the house with being responsible for that. So in our civilizations where we had control of everything before we got divided and conquered, before we got oppressed, we had the system in place to create men like this. It wasn't an anomaly. Right now, you get a man like Malcolm X, a stand-up man. It's an anomaly. You like, dang, like he different. In our civilizations, every man was a stand-up man. Every man had a backbone. Every man was intelligent. But in this system, this type of rule under our oppressors, when we get a man like that, it stand out because it's rare. It's like, oh my goodness, he different. So what does that mean? If we get shocked about that because he different, that means the typical man that this system creates is an imbecile. So when we get an intelligent man, it shocks us. But in this example, looking at our Zulu brothers in Southern Africa, we see, the typical thing was a man being upright, was a man being honest, was a man being intelligent. So if you get an imbecile, that was the anomaly back then. They say we were disciplined, honest, brave, wise, and respectful. Now, sisters, for y'all to say, man, toxic masculinity, do this sound like toxic masculinity? Nah, why? Because we was governing ourselves. But under our oppressors, now, sisters, you look at us like we toxic. We know a lot of our brothers gangbangers. We know a lot of our brothers violent. Once again, I ask you, is this our doing, or is this the doing of us learning from a bad teacher? Let's look at our masculinity with these same Zulu brothers. Now, I'm gonna leave it up to y'all because I don't want to make content that don't resonate with what people interested in. Check this out. If this video get a good amount of views, if this video gets some good engagement with likes or whatever, if y'all just show interest in this video, I'm gonna go deeper because I'm not going too deep. I'm not going location by location across the earth. I'm not going example by example because I don't want it to take too long and this might be boring for some people. So this video, we just gonna brush over it. If you enjoy this video and it shows, it reflects in the engagement and stuff, we're gonna keep getting deeper into it and we're gonna keep giving more examples and more locations, etc. But right now, we're just gonna stick with our Southern Africa brothers, our Zulu brothers. Now, with this example, we see how they practice discipline and practice restraint, but bravery at the same time. Right now, a lot of our brothers are brave, a lot of our gangbang brothers are brave, but their aggression is misguided and misdirected because they are killing one another. They are killing the next brother. They are harming the next sister by taking her husband away from her, harming the family that their brother belongs to, etc. So we see bravery not a problem right now, but the morality with it is the problem. Let's look in our civilizations and see if we had a morality problem. My favorite scholar, Wisdom Muhammad, said the following: pre-colonial Zulu manhood was not just about martial prowess, but had a moral conscience and put a premium on integrity. Preferred masculinity by Zulu standards combined martial prowess with honesty, high morality, as shown in the absence of pre-martial penetrative sexual interactions with a female subject, loyalty, aggressiveness, a sense of responsibility, courage, self-reliance, athleticism, alertness, endurance, and absence of emotion. Now, it's two things I want to touch on here: the aggressiveness part and absence of emotions part. When you hear aggressive, you might think the brother being over aggressive. You might think this is not some good, this is some bad. Incorrect. Aggressive is something positive if it's used correctly. Because you see, the first thing we read was we put a premium on integrity. So if we say that, then say aggressive, you know this aggressiveness is not taken out of context. Let me give you a good example of aggression. Because let's say, you know how some folks, they'll be religious, they'll be good-hearted people, but still misguided. These would be the type of people you will hear, yeah, I'ma just turn the other cheek. Even the Bible teach you eye for eye. That's foolish. Religion should not make you so passive that you're a victim to the person who already oppressing you. No, you should stand up for yourself. So aggressiveness is not necessarily bad. The aggressiveness is if you hit me, instead of just turning my cheek and let you hit this one too, if you hit me, I'm finna knock your face off. Simple as that. Aggressiveness, proper aggressiveness. Now, the other part is say absence of emotions. This is not, what's the word I'm looking for? The sisters don't like. Nonchalant. This is not being nonchalant. Absence of emotion is more like being stoic. Like, even though some bad might be going on, you might be depressed, you might be sad, X, Y, and Z, you are still able to look at life for what it is, be able to pocket your emotions right now, and still handle the task at hand. Then when the threat is neutralized or you are able to be vulnerable, then you be vulnerable. But while you are under attack, and I'm not talking about a physical attack like somebody trying to pound on you or whatever, but whatever situations in life creating the opposition, focus on defeating the opposition. You might be broke right now, and I know that might be a painful feeling, but instead of saying, I'm just so broke, nah, you're like, damn, I don't like this. Let me do what I gotta do to come up out of it. And then when you get time to breathe, then you can say, damn, like, how did I get like this? Then you can reflect and you can be vulnerable. You see what I'm saying? So that's the absence of emotion, not nonchalant or not stupid and not able to really cope with your emotions, not being emotionally unintelligent. Nah, just being able to deal with it at the proper time. Cool. Then to say, we had a cultural practice of stick fighting. Now we finna get into the morality, but bravery at the same time. The practice of stick fighting was so crucial to the socialization of Zulu boys. The stick fight evoked the challenges of future manhood and the glories of bygone battles, but it was not simply a martial recreation. It specifically promoted the traditional pre-colonial form of Zulu masculinity. Stick fighting was a martial art that expressed the grammar of honorable restraint. Let's repeat that. Honorable restraint. All right. It adhered to rules of competition that privileged rhetoric, honor, defense rather than aggression, physical restraint, and the subordination of personal ego to the communal good. It imbued Zulu masculinity with an ethos of self-control, discipline, and respect. A small boy carries his stick and grows up with it, and it serves as a signifier of generational deference and homestead security. So, let's think about a lot of our brothers who locked up in jail right now for violence. They weren't able to put that ego aside for the communal good. Let's say this another brother over here with a whole nother family, etc. He do something I don't like. He hurt my feelings. I feel like he tried to play me or whatever. Cool. Instead of taking that L on the chin because me probably getting embarrassed or however I feel about what he did, even though that hurt me as a grown man, I know me harming that brother, taking him away from his family, etc., taking me away from my family for going to jail, I'm able to ration with, yeah, I feel embarrassed. Yeah, I feel played with. But you know what? It ain't worth turn down our community by taking me away from my family, him away from his family, X, Y, and Z. Then that have a trickle effect. We was able to put our personal ego aside for the communal good. We don't do that no more. We don't have these type of systems reinforced in our society to produce men like this. We have laws. The law say don't steal. This is a perfect example. The law say don't steal and don't kill. The people who made that law are the biggest thieves and the biggest killers known to man. So if you have a rule, but you're a hypocrite, the person making the rule is a hypocrite. You got a rule, but you got a system that don't only reinforce that rule, it reinforced the opposite. We got a law, then we got the same people that make the law create situations, circumstances, and environments for the people to break the law. Then they want to come and reinforce the law just to benefit off the people who broke the law. This is the type of society you have. But our society really meant what we said. We like, nah, we got a law. This the standard. Then we're going to do everything in our power to help you meet that standard. And when you don't meet that standard, we still going to meet you with love and try to correct you in a proper way. Then if you just can't abide by it, then we'll bring in consequences, probably remove you from the community, X, Y, Z. We'll handle it like that. But in our society now, it's just a trick. We got a law just to trick you into breaking the law, just to punish you and benefit you off you breaking the law. That's stupid. Dang, y'all, I'm looking at the time. I know it's going to get edited down and cut down smaller than this, but I'm past the little time I wanted to record. I said this only going to be a 10-minute video. It's finna be well past 10 minutes. But I'm going to tell y'all this. I'm going to keep my word for what I said earlier. Today, we just going to title this what something like the difference in masculinity between races. But like that's so broad. In this video, we really only talked about what, like morality and stuff. So I'm a title this video specific, but I'm gonna put it in the playlist. If y'all want more of this content, let me know. And we'll do it however y'all want. If y'all want more of the straight facts, us just read it off the screen together. Or if y'all want more of the like one-on-one conversation, you see what I'm saying? Like we just going over it in a broader form, let me know. But this video, we only touched a couple topics. If y'all mess with it, we're going to touch some more topics. We're going to get more specific, but we just going to leave it right there for where it's at now, because I don't want to overdo it. And like I said, folks don't even mess with this type of content. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all tapping in to the Don't Be a Viking podcast. I'll holler at y'all on the next one. Y'all like how close we was. Let me know if y'all like it too. Got the rag on. But it's like the hood act like a sound. What's the word I'm looking for? Noise cancellation. Cause right now it's like I can barely hear myself. When I just took it off, but I feel like I can hear it next door. But all right, y'all. Appreciate y'all.